Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fundamentalists podcast, the first of the new year. High five.
High five.
We're back.
I
name
hate
is...
doing high fives. That is like we're rubbish at that in Europe. I always miss.
Really? Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And also, it wasn't. That was a very not strong high five.
Yeah, it was like a weak handshake.
Yep.
Yeah,
But
somebody
you don't
taught
want to do
me,
too hard.
but you look at the elbow.
Yeah.
And that does work.
That was me, Pete. I taught you that.
You did teach me that. Yeah.
I teach you a lot of things, Pete, mostly about philosophy. Hi, I'm the philosopher. Pete is a comedian and an internet personality.
Yep.
Pete has a small company called The Valley Folk with your friends, where you make comedy for people on Patreon. And I am a writer, theologian, and speaker.
You spend most of your time in your pajamas in your house.
Most of my time in my pajamas, looking upon the skyscrapers surrounding. Dude, your place is just the most peaceful place. So yeah, you really nailed it.
I've tried to make it so calming and peaceful.
It's so just clean lines. Everywhere is clean. Everywhere. I've never seen a fridge as organized as that. It's so cool. It feels when you open that fridge like you're walking into Google, and it just has like lines and lines, everything, any soda you want. So thank you for this.
I think it's
strange.
I think I'm caught in the anal phase. That's kind of where you have to. It's about cleanliness and dirtiness, and you see people who are obsessively clean or obsessively dirty.
Anal retentive, is that what it is?
Yeah, something anal about it. But we all have anal and oral fixations. You smoke. That's a bit of an oral fixation.
I've smoked once or twice in my day. But me, no, I don't do bad habits. I'm doing dry January, which we talked about for a second. So you're having a gin and tonic.
I'm having a gin and tonic.
I'm having an orange soda.
It's terrible because I was saying to you earlier that the only reason why I'm drinking is because when I see you like Pavlov's dog, I immediately go and open up the drinks.
Let's party. Yeah. That's probably a good sign that I'm on the right track. Not doing
it is very. It's like the bell rings and I just start salivating for
Hello.
alcohol. Yeah. Oh, brilliant!
Elliot's here. Great. Let's begin.
Yeah.
Let's feel bad tomorrow.
So dry January. Good job.
Dry January. We'll see what happens after. Yeah, I'm very. There's no withdrawal or any kind of like missing it right now, because I feel like in
heroin takes the edge off.
Exactly. You got to replace it with something.
Absolutely.
Keep it healthy. No, I feel very pickled after New Year's. I was just like, okay, yeah, no, I'm good. How was your New Year's?
New Year's was great. I was going to not do anything. I was really tired. There was a party in Laguna Beach with some friends, but it was like it's going to take me an hour and a half to drive there. Too much. But then some friends were having the party 15 minutes away, and I showed up. I thought it's around 10 o'clock. And it was actually a really fun party.
You showed up at 10?
Around 10 and stayed through. I kind of thought 10 and then if, having a good time, couple hours and go home, but stayed later than that.
Did you all watch the ball drop? Or
I put it on the background. They had a projector going, but they had like a DJ going and stuff, and I just kind of had the ball going up. I swear I picked the wrong channel, and so for ages it was just pictures of, I think I was in Fox News or something, so it was just lots of pictures of controversial political characters, and I was like, oh shit. No, get the ball.
There'll be enough of that next year.
Yeah.
Did you have any New Year's resolutions or any kind of?
I haven't. I always forget to do that.
Yeah.
But you've had some dry January.
Dry January is one, and just being generally healthier. Doing more stuff on my YouTube channel.
Yes, that was a big thing we were talking about.
It's not really resolution though. That's more of a pivot that I was waiting till the new year to do. So I don't know if that counts. It's not like new year, new me. It's like I just want to do some more weird stuff. But that's about it. We'll see. We'll see if any of it happens. So this particular episode, we're covering a few different things. One of them is going to be, we're going to talk a little bit about guilt. We're going to talk about World War III for some reason, and whatever else comes up for fun. And I have had a Starbucks espresso double shot. So if I'm coming off really excited, it's not because I'm pumped.
It's not because of anything I'm saying. It's not because of
or God forbid anything. So let's dive in. So we got guilt, and I love where we talked a second before hitting record. I love where this is going. Hit me with it.
All right. Okay. So I was thinking about this quote by Lacan. And
Classic.
I wanted to go a few different directions. So I was thinking, I think I said I'd like to talk about perversion, and I wanted to talk about desire and sexual desire. But then I kind of started thinking, well, let's do one on guilt. So guilt was the interesting thing. And the quote is this quote from Seminar 7 of his lectures. Every year he gave a seminar. So each seminar is a year. Seminar 7, he said, the only guilt you feel is giving ground relative to your desire. Right. So the guilt arises when you give ground relative to your desire. So I thought it would be fun to kind of unpick that a little bit and see where it goes.
Let's pick it away.
Okay, so I basically, because this is the structure, isn't it, where you do the intro, then I do a little bit of a sermon, and then we both get into a conversation.
It's perfect because I can BS for a couple minutes, you say something substantial, and I get to sit back and just listen, and then and the podcast starts after that. Yeah,
perfect. Okay, I just feel guilty because I'm going
to waffle for those whoever made the Fundamentalists bingo game.
Oh yeah, yes. So
we just did one of them, I think.
Which one?
One, we mentioned gin and tonic, and then two, we did.
We should do a podcast on that.
We talk about the podcast during the podcast and whether or not it's gonna. Yeah, I
think we did three because I try to stop myself there because I remember my tendency is to go, we should do a podcast on that. So it's going to say perversion. We should do a podcast, and I stopped myself because of the bingo card.
There's one for the Valleycast where every episode, I didn't realize this, but most episodes, after the intro, at some point, I'll be like, Steve, I think I'm peaking. Like, I think my volume is peaking. And it would happen over and over again. And I don't know if it was because other people were using the podcast or podcast room, but I didn't realize that it was almost every episode. And then it became a running thing of like people being like, there is. And to this day, I still go like, I think I'm peaking. And I'm like, crap, I did it again. But I do think I'm peaking. So it's very funny. Anyway, go ahead. There's Starbucks talking.
What does this mean? Because here, what is guilt? That's the question. What is guilt?
Guilt when you do bad thing, feel bad.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about animal lovers recently, and people who have dogs. You're a dog lover.
I'm a dog lover.
But people will say, "Oh, my dog feels guilty if it pisses when it shouldn't. It has this guilt on it." And I was thinking about that and going like, "Well, right. What if that's not actually really guilt? Right? Guilt's a more interesting thing than that." And this quote gets at it. And so to think about it, think about being pulled over by the police, right? You're going down the road, you're not speeding, not doing anything wrong. You see the lights, cop pulls you over. For many neurotic people, they start to feel guilty, right? They start to feel this guilt and this anxiety. And then the police officer comes along and they're like, sorry, officer, and I hope I didn't do anything wrong. And they give their license, and then the police officer lets them go. So why is it that they feel guilty when they did nothing wrong? That's the interesting bit, right? Not when you feel guilty because you did something wrong.
Okay.
Why do people feel guilty when they did everything right? And this gets us to the core of guilt.
So I was, a few weeks ago, my girlfriend and I went to Palm Springs, and we didn't eat prior. We got real hungry. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to Postmates some Subway sandwiches, some Jersey Mike's sandwiches, rather.
Wow, you look after your bodies.
Exactly. Yeah. We're health nuts. And we got to oh, wow, there's a helicopter right there.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
I've never seen them that close. Cool. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was amazing. And it looked like it was kind of coming toward us. Really neat stuff. Yeah. So anyway, we tried to time it.
Suddenly the podcast goes blank.
Yeah. How did they upload it? So we tried to time it so we would get to the house at the same time that the Postmates guy did, so that he wasn't just waiting.
Yeah.
And it turns out we were going to be like 3 minutes late, and because you can see where they're coming on the app. And so Grace messaged the guy and was like, we'll be a few minutes late. He was like, no problem, let me know. But we still felt bad because it's like those guys make their money by getting as many rides done as possible, getting as much done. And so we turn onto the street that the house is on. There's a 4-way stop, and I rolled through it like nobody's business. It's an empty street. And Grace goes, how funny would it be if you immediately get pulled over? And I was like, yeah. I was like right next to the house. I was like, yeah, I think we'll be okay. There's no one around. Pull into the house. It was literally right there. The guy's waiting with the sandwiches. I'm getting out of the car, and I hear and a motorbike cop pulls directly into the driveway.
No.
And I was like, I get out of the car and I just look at him and I'm like, I just started laughing, but I was in my head, I was just like, okay, friggin' okay. And Grace is like grabbing the Subway sandwiches, and like our car is like full of all the baggage.
It had to be you because you get caught every time, all the time.
That's why, I'm a good law-abiding citizen, because I know if I do break a law,
you get caught.
I'm gonna get caught if I don't pay my meter. If I speed, I get caught. If I don't have a tag up to date. Yeah. Basically, I just break too many laws. But I felt no guilt.
Yeah.
But I also had done. He was like, "Do you know why I'm stopping you?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." I was like, "I rolled through the four-way stop," and he goes, "Why'd you do that?" And I was like, "We had Postmates." I was like, and we didn't want to wait because we were running late, and I was like, "I know it's very stupid," and he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "It's very stupid," and he goes, "License and registration, you know."
Oh,
insurance,
did he give you a ticket?
So we give him all this stuff, and he does not give us a ticket.
Oh, that's good.
He's you know, we're sitting there, and he's looking at and the tags weren't great. Didn't have the stickers on our tags or whatever.
It was a stolen car as well.
It was a stolen car.
Yeah. There were a lot of drugs in the...
Yeah, I had cocaine up my butthole. And he was like, okay. He's like, it's fine. He's like, enjoy your weekend. He's like, in the future, don't roll through stop signs. Like, the ticket will be more expensive than the sandwiches. And I was like, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And he rolled off. But I just had one of those things of like, I know I messed up, and of course it's happening, but you know, it is what it is. But it was not the same as feeling guilty in not doing something.
But see, this is similar to me, and I don't know how much I can say about, I don't think this is totally fine, but I was driving for some time without a license. And
recently?
No, a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
And I weirdly had no guilt at all, but a couple of times I got pulled over by the police, and I had to be so persuasive to avoid the trouble. Yeah, so that was but it was weird because I felt the opposite of what a neurotic feels, which is profound guilt even when they do the right thing. We were feeling no guilt about doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's a scarier thing.
Yeah, and this is why then guilt becomes really interesting, because a dog would feel guilty not if it feels bad because it pissed in the house when it shouldn't have, but if it didn't piss in the house and then felt guilty. That would be human guilt. And it's hard to know if... I don't think dogs feel that.
No, I don't think they do, unless they're just skittish and scared. But that's not because they have to pee. It's usually just because they're skittish and scared and were hurt previously. But yeah, so guilt is basically giving into one's desire, which basically sounds like guilt's when you do what you want to do when it's different than what society tells you to do.
Kind of. It's the difference between what's called demand and desire.
Okay.
Right? So the demand is a demand of society, or demand of your parents, demand of the party you're at, whatever, social demands, the demand of the big other. And desire is, and this is where it gets interesting, desire is not necessarily your desire. We'll get to that in a second, but desire is, I think we've used this example before, but maybe demand is if your mum says to you, listen, don't hit anybody if you're at school. Don't get into fights. Mm-hmm. That's a demand. But then someone bullies you, and you go to the teacher and you tell the teacher, and you don't hit the person back. And maybe you talk to your parents, and you can see that they're happy because you obeyed their demand, but they're a bit disappointed because their desire was, you should have just hit the guy, right? So that the weird thing is demand and desire are slightly different. So if you get pulled over by the cops and you feel guilty, let's imagine it's me. Maybe I have the desire to speed off and have a big car chase, right? That's my desire. So even though I don't do it, I obey the demand of society to pull over, to stop. But because I have this desire to speed off and try and lose the cop, my superego condemns me for it. So weirdly, I feel guilty not because of what I did. I feel guilty because I gave ground to my desire. I didn't do what I desired.
Yeah.
So it's funny, whenever you watch people who are guilty, feel guilty, the question often is what desire are they giving ground to? What do they want to do that they're not doing?
Well, wouldn't it be if you're pulled over by a police officer and you're feeling bad and you're getting, which, I mean, granted, in my I knew what I had done. I knew there was no one around, and I knew that it was what it was. And I was also out of my car, which is a weird...
No, because it's because you did what you desired. You see, what you desired to do was break the law and get the sandwich. I mean, you desired to go to the house, to get the Subway sandwich because you hate your body, and eat the sandwich with your girlfriend.
Like you're giving Jersey Mike's a hard time. Jersey Mike's
Jersey Mike's is
let's
very
not
good,
bring
actually.
Jersey Mike's into this.
Yeah, we may ruin a sponsorship
They've done
deal.
nothing wrong.
So you did what you desired. But you disobeyed the demand of society.
Oh, so
hence you don't feel any guilt because you didn't give ground to your desire.
Yeah,
it's the opposite way around. Is if the cop pulls you over because you didn't do anything wrong, but you wanted to get the subway. There's weird, and unconsciously you don't. This is none of this happening consciously, but one of the reasons you can say you didn't feel any guilt is literally because you didn't give ground to your desire.
Yeah,
you just laughed. You just thought, "Oh yeah, sorry, I'm gonna have to pay a fine."
Yeah. That's I knowingly broke a law, and as my mom would say growing up, I deliberately disobeyed.
Yeah.
Did you ever get that growing up? That term?
Oh no, that sounds very religious.
Really?
I don't know.
It has a nice ring to it. It might be. It probably is a result of the Florida culture, but or that kind of conservative culture. Deliberately disobeyed.
Yeah.
But the desire to speed off when you're in the car isn't really a desire to have a car chase necessarily, right? It's a desire to flee that situation and get out of it in some way. Yeah. Or do you thinking something a little bit more malicious, a little bit more like crazy?
It could be anything. I mean, that's the thing. So like, it could be anything. Like your desire could be to basically imagine the police officer is like a symbol of the authority of the big other. So your desire might be just to rebel against the big other. Mm-hmm. So that's your desire, and it just manifests in, you don't even think about speeding off, but it would manifest in some way of going, maybe you want to shout at the police officer.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to tell him to piss off, whatever. So it doesn't matter, but in a way with the police officer is a symbol of the big other. Your desire might be to rebel against the big other.
Yeah, it's interesting how when it comes to getting pulled over by a police officer, it can ruin your day regardless of if you get a ticket or not. Like in my experience, growing up especially, if I got pulled over, I would feel guilty about it for the rest of the day. Like it would kill the day, and then I would feel pangs of guilt about it the next day. Yeah. And I'd slowly wait for it to diminish, but it would be like a 3-day process before I was kind of over it. Which
it can play in people's minds. That's why even after people walk away from an argument where they didn't say something, they can obsess in the shower about what they would have said. Mm-hmm. Because again, what they did is they obeyed the demand, which is don't say anything and it's wrong, but they didn't obey their desire.
Yeah.
And so they're like, feel anxious and guilty and feel I should have said this, and if only I'd said this. But here's the funny thing, and it might relate to your experiences. It's not just my desire to run away from the police officer. In a way, it's the other's desire. Like, and in a very concrete way, like the police officer would probably love it if you drove off, right? And nothing better than for the police officer to do a big chase.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't want to write another ticket.
Yeah, or just wants to chase you. Yeah. Well, that'd be great, and to be able to tell the family, "Oh, I had this big car chase," right? So
anarchy, pure anarchy.
So it's not simply that the demand is on the other and desire is in you. They're both in you and the other. That's where it gets a bit more complicated. So even when the reason why the police officer didn't give you a ticket, partly maybe, is because the demand, because he's the authority, the demand is for him to give you a ticket, but his desire is, oh, screw it, you wanted to get your Jersey, what's it called? Jersey Mike's. And that's kind of funny, and that's kind of cool, and of course you didn't show any guilt, so he has a conflict between desire and demand.
I also think it has something to do with the fact that it's Palm Springs, and they assumed that since we were just getting there that we aren't there often and that we're tourists, and they don't want to give tickets to tourists.
Oh, is that right?
That's my
I thought
theory.
They want to get rid of tourists. No?
I think my theory is that they want to keep tourists around because it kind of keeps the town alive a little bit, but
you see,
I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But here's the thing: imagine he gave you a ticket. My hypothesis in this situation, not knowing it, and of course it's just a thought experiment, is that he would have felt guilty giving you a ticket. And the reason why he would have felt guilty giving you a ticket is because he would have obeyed the demand, but not his desire. So he would obey the demand as a police officer to give you a ticket, but he wouldn't have obeyed his desire, which is, my goodness, of course, you're not going to,
Yeah, his desire is like, you're just a young couple who was hungry.
Yeah, hungry, and like it was a four-way stop. So it's in everybody. So that cop now doesn't feel guilt, right? Because he or she didn't give you a ticket, right? But would have felt guilt if they had given you a ticket. Mm-hmm. So this
I also like to think there was no guilt or shame in my demeanor, and I wonder if that often makes it easier for them to write tickets, because the guilt and the shame can sort of cue them that like, oh yeah, you feel guilty, you feel shame, I'm going to punish you with a ticket. And it's like, if in my case, and I wasn't trying to be this way, but I truly was just standing there silently, like waiting for the experience to be over, because I was like, it's going to go one way or the other, and I'm still not going to I'm going to have my sandwich in the same amount of time, basically. And I was like, I hope he doesn't write me a ticket. And but I wonder if him standing there and just like, also I wasn't in my car at that point. I've never had that happen where it's like I'm standing there. He's on a bike. It's not like we're right there. We're like 6 feet apart. And I wonder if there's a little bit of like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
like you're a human.
yeah.
Like
Well,
not rather
yeah.
than see me behind the wheel and like, oh God, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that connects. In Stalinist system, you were guilty because of your guilt. So in a Stalinist system, if you showed guilt, they knew it wasn't because you'd done something, but they knew that the guilt was because you wanted to rebel. So the guilt was not, you go like, I didn't do anything wrong. Your guilt condemns you because your guilt shows that unconsciously you did want to rebel. So technically, whenever you show guilt to a police officer or to any authority figure, at a certain level, they read that not as you having necessarily done anything wrong, but as you wanting to have done something wrong. And so you're guilty because of your guilt. So in other words, if you can show no guilt whatsoever, which is that's one of the techniques to get out of it. That's how I got out of it with the no driver's license, is you show absolutely no guilt.
Yeah.
And that, that will work a fair amount of time.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult for someone who's neurotic not to show any guilt whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's a technique that, say psychotic individuals can do. They can literally show no guilt whatsoever.
It's hard to fake. And it's also not often that I would ever feel that like it truly was like I did a harmless illegal maneuver that
but it's also because you obeyed your desire, because you didn't give it, like in the Lacanian tradition, is in this very small way you did not give ground to your desire.
Well, there was also such a clear not lying thing. Like there's the kid, like he has the sandwiches, please. Like there's no, like it's such an absurd thing to lie about, but all the proof is right there. Like my girlfriend's getting those are the sandwiches. You see the sandwiches.
But I think even without that, you would have felt no guilt simply because you didn't cede your desire.
Now is Lacan, is he all about? I mean, because obviously we've talked about him ad nauseum, but his
that's
hook,
on the bingo card. Yep.
His hook is the desire. When you mention it, is not a, typically speaking, it's a slightly self-destructive or not in your best interest thing, right? Like your subconscious desires are not out to make you into a whole person that is, your best self, according to him, right? It's like it's darker impulses driven by a or there's a death drive behind it. There's some kind of a thing that's like wanting destruction, wanting to run away from the police, wanting to cause anarchy. Doesn't it tend to be darker stuff when it comes to Lacanian desire?
Yes and no, kind of, but you are getting something. This is getting something I would love to talk about, which maybe doesn't bring us to World War III yet, but we will get there.
We got plenty of time.
You got plenty of time. You're not in any rush.
And I think good. This is. I was aiming for a bridge, but yeah, we can.
Okay, yeah, no, I saw you were aiming, and I thought that was a very good bridge, but then I thought, it'd be fun to talk about.
Let's take a detour. Why not?
Okay, let's do that. Okay, on that, desire. The other reason why he's saying don't compromise your desire is because if you compromise your desire, you're going to end up doing something terrible, right? Now, of course, don't speed off in the police, right? There's a certain sense of guilt is not bad. In fact, for all neurotics, they have to deal with guilt, right?
Yeah. So if we all went around doing what we wanted to do, we would all be having sex and doing drugs, and society would crumble, and no one would have any responsibility. And is that basically what he's saying?
Well, that's a good preacher voice, because that's what the preachers say. But no, Lacan wants to say something kind of a bit more subtle, which is no, you should do right. Basically, your desire is structured in a certain way, and don't compromise that, or something terrible will happen. But it doesn't mean you have to act it out in a particular way. So for example, right, here's 3 ways you can desire in terms of sex.
Yes.
Right, so typical way someone desires during sex is there has to be an obstacle you overcome.
Okay.
Right, so you have to go on date night, you have to go for a meal, you have to arrange a weekend away, right? So what you'll notice for the typical couple is, in order to have a good sexual experience, you have to have a bit of an obstacle that you overcome, and it's simple. It's a date. It's going. In America they talk about date night, isn't that right? And you go like, and the whole point, and everyone knows, is date night is an opportunity to have sex. Well, then why do the date night? Why do the meal? Why spend the money on the wine? Why create these obstacles to the bedroom? But it's because the obstacles generate the desire for the bedroom. We've talked about that before. The object of desire is sex. The object cause of desire, what gets in the way, is the meal. So you have the meal and it makes you have sex. If that is your desire structure, that's great. You can manifest it in lots of different ways, but don't compromise that desire. Now, a perverse structure is different. So a perverse structure is where you directly desire the obstacle. You don't desire what's on the other side of the obstacle. So if you think of a guy going to a prostitute, there's loads of obstacles. It costs money. It's transgressive. He wouldn't want his kids to find out. He wouldn't want his partner maybe to find out. So there's all these obstacles that then allows the sex to happen. But if you imagine someone going to like a dominatrix, there is no sex. It's pure prohibition. It's everything is about you can't touch me, you can't do this, you can't have this.
It's not about sex. It's about the role playing.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of in a sense it's about the obstacle to sex. Yeah. It's about directly
about not having.
Yeah, about not having. So weirdly, or a fetish party is interesting to go. If you wanna see people enjoy not having sex, you go to a fetish party because that's people directly enjoying not having sex.
I'm good.
Yeah. And then the psychotic kind of structure is where someone can directly embrace their pleasure without any obstacles. So I think I saw this in a TV program. I think it was Westworld, where that it's a motif where you have like a brothel, but there's no transgressive dimension to it. Everybody's in partying, drinking. There's literally no transgression to the brothel, right? That's a pure neurotic fantasy. A brothel wouldn't work like that except for psychotic people, because
there's no transgression, as in everyone is just free and uninhibited, and
and can directly have sex without any form of obstacle that's in the way, and that's a different structure. So basically what I'm saying is if you take those three structures, whichever structure you are, don't compromise it. But that doesn't mean you have to...
This is like Hogwarts houses.
Yeah.
If you imagine a brothel and there's no inhibitions and everyone's going crazy, you're a Gryffindor. And the other one is the perverse. If it's a BDSM, is Slytherin. And the one that requires the obstacle, the normal sex, would be like a Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
And Hufflepuffs. Hufflepuffs would be they'd be the celibate ones, the ones that are just simply celibate across the board and prudish. Nuns, yeah.
Well, are nuns the ultimate perverse subject?
That's up to you, not for me to decide.
Yeah, like because it's ultimately the ultimate pleasure in not having sex, where ultimately for some of the mystics you end up having a sexual experience with God, or a sexual experience with God.
Like monks and stuff. But couldn't you argue that for nuns too, that they have they get their sexual satisfaction from their spiritual journey? Isn't that the whole
but
exchange rate?
Which is technically a perverse structure, but is that you literally you directly get your sexual pleasure from the journey towards the sexual pleasure.
It's like a monk, like after a while you just wouldn't want sex, right? Like you starve that desire, or would you be of the opinion that it never goes away? Or
that you're just able to, and this is a positive thing, you're able to directly get your it's like the fascist, not I'm saying monks are fascists, but there's a fascist structure.
Well, monks are fascists, yeah.
But there's a fascist structure where
which is the other Hogwarts, the fifth Hogwarts.
Yes, that's yeah. But for someone who's was saying a military kind of like a militia, fascist militia, their desire is directly in the sacrifice of their desire. So you see it in like Nazi uniforms. In it, the ultimate fantasy is you give up your pleasure for your country. You to sacrifice everything, but then you directly get libidinal pleasure out of the sacrifice of pleasure.
Sickos.
So it's a really
absolute sickos.
Okay,
so we've deviated.
I was wondering if incels. Well, but anyway, keep going.
Incels, yeah. Incels are an interesting. I was about to say it.
Oh yeah. Bingo.
Yeah, bingo. Well, let's real quick. You're familiar with this term, incels?
Yeah.
It means involuntary celibate.
Yeah.
I don't know why I think that idea is so funny. So it basically means that they're self-proclaimed, right? People wear it as a badge of honor. They will say that they're an incel.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, but there are people who self-proclaim as incels. That's why I think it might be. Most incels are probably not perverse, but I think it's a perverse structure, which is neither good nor bad, in that they directly get pleasure out of. Now it's difficult because they're involuntary celibates.
Yeah.
So
but can you be involuntary celibate if you are self-proclaimed involuntary celibate? Isn't that sort of being like how? how can you choose? How can you decide that you have no choice to be celibate?
Well, they're saying that in the society they are, or just in general, like without getting too, because I'm very sympathetic to everything. So I'm going like some incels.
It's sad for sure.
Yeah, but or it isn't, right? So let's think incel A is basically going like, I want to have sex and I can't. Incel B is saying that is taking pleasure in not having sex. As in they've got a podcast about it, they're writing blogs about it, they're getting, you can see they're getting enjoyment from their resentment of society. And then in celibate C, that would probably be your two.
Let's pivot. I don't want to talk about World War III. Okay. I want to talk about incels for a second. Okay. Incels are way more fun than World War III, and you can quote me on that. Yeah. The first incel you mentioned,
right? Is it they're not getting pleasure from being celibate? They're going like, I don't know the new rules of the game. I'm not having sex, and I really genuinely would like to have sex.
But that's not impotence.
Not impotence, no. It's just that they're maybe very insecure.
They're like innocently like, yeah, like I just can't figure this out. I don't know I don't feel like I fit into the sex game, or the mating game. I don't know what my
and there's loads of people like that. My goodness, I feel like a majority of my life has been like that, like just not knowing how to flirt or how to chat someone. Like that's, so many people feel it a little bit. That's why I'm sympathetic in the sense of all of us know that to some extent. Like all of us have kind of. I don't think
any guy would ever. And no guy I know would ever feel like they couldn't relate to being involuntarily celibate.
Yes,
but I would just call that being single, I guess. Like I don't know, but anyway, or not dating. And I get it. That means they think it. So
but then you're saying the second one is the interesting one.
That's the interesting. It's also, when I say it, I'm talking about the people who are the people. They're like really angry.
Yeah.
Like they're very upset, and they have self-victimized so much, it seems to me, that they've become a meme, and they've become like they've been chalked up to this group that exists online, and I'm truly confused by it, because I don't know if they intentionally know that they're a joke, and if they do, why are they continuing to wave the incel flag? Because it's become known as this kind of wormy, self-hating, woman-hating guy, and I'm sure that's not the case.
I know, and this is where like the social media stuff.
It's all social media,
but I am interested in the figure you're talking about. So let's talk about the figure of someone who isn't having sex, who wants to have sex, but who. So here's the thing, right? Let's put them beside a second person, right? Let's put them beside someone who enjoys fetishistic sex. In other words, genital sex is not of interest to them, right? That's just neither here nor there. Yeah. What they like is the prohibition. What they like is the impossibility. So they enjoy it. So they're getting direct libidinal enjoyment from it. And then put it beside the incel. They're also getting enjoyment, but they don't experience it as enjoyment, i.e., they're talking about it, they're angry at society, they're getting enjoyment out of their hatred, just like hate looking at Twitter or something. So they're not enjoying their enjoyment, but they are getting enjoyment. So that's very typical of lots of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the girl who says she can never find a nice guy, and it's like
but he's maybe getting enjoyment out of not.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're getting something out of dating jerk after jerk after jerk after jerk. So you're never going to say that's enjoyment, but something in you wants it on an unconscious level, right? Okay.
So exactly. So if I was talking to that incel you're talking about, I would be interested in just trying to help them see the enjoyment they're getting out of their lack of enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And then one of two things would happen. Either you could evaporate their symptom, and then maybe they would be able to then have a sexual relationship, or they would discover, Harry. What's that?
You're a wizard, Harry.
Or they'd be part of Slytherin. Is that Slytherin? Yeah, they realize they're part of Slytherin.
You do a little spell on them, and it evaporates their virginity.
Yeah, or they become Slytherin and they go, oh, I actually enjoy not having sex, and there's a whole lots of people like that, and I can enjoy it. So for me, an incel is just someone who has not been able to enjoy their enjoyment or dissolve their symptom.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting word.
Yeah.
Because it sounds so...
it sounds very cool.
It sounds cool. It sounds futuristic almost. You know, it sounds like it's something you would call an army on the moon.
It's very communist, because that's what the communists always did. Is they took two words and they reduced them to to like the first few letters of each word. So I'm trying to think of any examples off the top of my head, but there's lots of examples within communist systems of like and it always sounds very cool.
It's bad. It sounds badass. And then they get chalked up to being sort of these cartoonish figures on the internet, and which can be mean, but also then they get mean, and it's just a lot of it's low.
You know what?
It's all low stuff.
I have discovered on social media that people can be mean.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. It's. I mean, I'm guessing it's rare, but I have seen it.
But you know, it's interesting. We mentioned memes a second ago, and we mentioned social media. World War III is coming up, Pete. And I don't know if you know about this or not, but I know everything about what's going on with this. I've researched it. I actually am very.
You're making a bunker.
I'm making a bunker, and I know a lot about like Iran and Iraq and all these places, and I know how the Middle East functions as well as how our government functions. And I think it's important to say that, because a lot of people are kind of talking out their butt with this topic, and they're pretending to know what's going to happen, but I actually do know.
Oh. Because I do see, I remember living with you, and you always had your head in books about Iran.
I was obsessed. It's my whole life. My whole hobby. I definitely knew who this guy was that got killed before. No, not at all.
Okay.
I was thinking about, what if you, as a thought experiment, if you just started looking at people, who public figures or big figures who die in some way, but you can only rank them in age, like you have to imagine that their birth date is when you found out who they were. So like a lot of people will like if you know, when Michael Jackson died, like I basically knew who he was my entire life, so that's a different one. But this guy, this Salmo blah 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 name, I don't know, I didn't know who he was before he died. Did you know?
No.
Yeah, so it was his existence in my life and in my brain was infinitesimal.
He was born 2 days ago.
He was born 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And it sucks. He whatever, you come into this world and you leave
sadly,
it.
He was born the day he died, sadly. Yeah, but
isn't that crazy?
For the majority of Americans,
and apparently did a lot of damage in that amount of time. So there's this whole thing happening. Obviously, I'm joking and being a dork about the what I know, because I know nothing. I don't think anybody knows anything. But I do think it's interesting what social media does with World War III, and how immediately you wake up. You saw this. World War III is trending. I didn't believe it immediately. There's scary things happening. One is, a lot of people immediately believe that World War III is happening. They hear the word impeach. They think Trump is out of office. They hear so many things, and they don't know how anything actually works. But then it speaks to a fear that they're having. And then
speaks to a desire. Yeah, anybody will get to that.
Exactly. Yeah, keep going. And then there's the other side of the meme accounts, the meme people, the online comedians immediately making jokes, like immediately creating stuff where I'm getting drafted, me when I get drafted. Nope, here's me waking up to memes about World War III and all that stuff. And it's like how I don't know if it's a coping mechanism. I don't know if it's how we process what we're actually experiencing, or if it speaks to just a deep, deep irreverence and nihilism in the millennial generation, that they immediately just don't give a crap, and they're like, "Oh, World War III? Okay, here's a funny joke." But I prefer that over the people who are hyper paranoid. And then there's the other side of people who are like, "No, nothing's gonna happen. It's fine. You don't know." Then there's the people who go, we're at the camp I'm in, which is like, I don't know what any of this is. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know how this works.
Were there 2 other world wars before this one?
Yeah, exactly. Why is this 3?
Was I sleeping?
This is a Star Wars thing? Are we going to go back and make 1 and 2 later? Yeah. So that's it's all very interesting to me, and it's fascinating to see how social media there's algorithms where whatever algorithm you're in on your social media you're only going to get that angle of it, and you think because you're on the internet you're going to get multiple angles, but really all the social media now is just tailored to your previous browsing, so it's kind of becoming more insular and more like in a bubble. Hence why I'll turn on, and I know you'll turn on Fox News or whatever. I'll get on Facebook and see what people are saying, where it's like, I want to at least make sure that it's not all like this, right? So anyway.
Yeah, no, let's jump in. By the way, you mentioned Michael Jackson, just as an aside. I think Michael Jackson has a desire structure, or had a desire structure where he got pleasure out of not getting what he wanted. And that's why there were so few accusations against him, because he literally, because that's the problem people have with him, is either he would have abused thousands or hundreds of kids, or he wasn't interested at all. But of course, if your desire structure is that you get desire out of not getting what you desire, then it would make sense of the situation. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Yeah.
We'll move on.
Yeah, I'm not touching that.
World War III. Yeah, here's the thing. So I was at a party a couple of weeks ago, and it's rare for me to go out of the house, as you know, but I did. And was that
I like it every time.
Yeah,
I get excited every time you do it.
I should go out more, because it does give me fuel for podcasts.
Yeah, but also I don't go out at all. I mean, I travel.
You look as if you're doing so much fun stuff.
Yeah, it does look like that.
Yeah.
I don't leave the house ever.
Well, except you've spent the last 2 weeks in like Florida and in New Jersey.
But that's, I think, travel is different than like going out to a party or anything like that. But I mean, whatever. Yeah. I do go out. I go out.
Yeah. Well, I was at a party, or it was a friend's house, a get together, let's call it. And there was a guy there, and we were talking, and he said that he was fascinated. No, that's right. He was terrified of death. From when he could remember as a teenager.
I hope that's how he introduced himself.
Yeah, that's right.
I am terrified of death.
Yeah, this is the problem with me at parties. Is I have a tendency to draw these kind of conversations out of people,
for sure.
Which is not.
You're good at it.
Yeah, but people want to go to a party. I myself am not necessarily get into these. I'm not sure why that happens, but this happened.
No, it's like, good. It's you invite it in a good way. It's good. I've seen it happen. I see people go, I actually grew up during it, and I'm like, here it goes.
Yeah.
It's your entertainment.
And I'm like, let's just get drunk. No,
you like listening to people.
But I do love listening to
at
people.
A party that's very convenient.
Yeah, that works well. So, and this guy was a fascinating guy, really interesting guy. But he's terrified of death, and he's tried to solve it. He's tried to work it out. But as we were talking, and I was saying to him, I was like, listen, what if you're not terrified of death? What if you're fascinated by death? What if you want to die? And it's in the same way that if you look over a cliff, like I have a thing in here, you can open up window.
Yes.
So I live on the 31st floor, and you open up this, and you can basically look down. And I do a little thing with people, not a lot, but I kind of ask them if they can fall against the plastic protector.
Yes.
So it's a weird thing where if you fall against it, it feels like you're falling.
Which goes up to about my sternum.
Yeah. So it's a really nice little, and it's glass, so you can't really see it. So if you fall forward into it, you feel like you're going to fall 31 floors.
It's terrifying.
And
also not a smart thing to do.
Probably not, yeah. Probably not.
But I did it for sure one night.
Yeah.
It was some Christmas party over here, and I did it. Curtis did it. Yeah, other people did it. And
the interesting thing is, some people can't do it, but also some people can't even go close to the window.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like looking over a cliff. If you suddenly pull back and are terrified of falling or jumping, is not all the time, but it can be a hint that you want to jump.
So that's Kierkegaard, right? Didn't Kierkegaard say that? Yeah. It's not the fear of heights or something. It's the desire to jump.
That's right. My goodness, yeah, you're right. Yeah. There's a Kierkegaard thing about that, definitely. So that fear of jumping is weirdly when you catch yourself in your desire. So you catch yourself in your desire, and you have to pull back
because part of you
wants to jump. Part wants to jump.
Well, yeah.
And so if you don't feel that at all, there's not really much of you that wants to jump. Now, so I was saying to this guy, is actually, although it looks like you're terrified of dying, let's just reframe it for a second. And in this situation, he kind of went, yeah, okay. And there was something in him that...
Did you give him the example of the...
I think I mentioned that, yeah. I mentioned it. But
the cliff?
Yeah, the cliff. But I kind of wanted to be a bit more subtle as well, but I think I did mention it. But at first, you just kind of, all you do is you just kind of put the idea in their head. You just kind of go... Inception, yeah.
I like how our belches were perfectly synced up there for a second. Like, yep, that's what I meant to. Yeah, Inception, yeah, you're going into their brain, you're planting the seed.
Well, or hopefully you're revealing the seed that's there. But
sure,
whatever.
That's a much nicer term.
That's a nicer way to say it. But in terms of World War III, I just wonder whether something similar is happening, that the fact that it escalated to that level so quickly is how many people are, without knowing it, secretly wanting the end of the world to kind of prove that, you know, for a whole pile of reasons. One is to
prove,
to prove see, I told you this was terrible.
Big bad man bad.
Yes, Orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
And sometimes it can just be pure death drive, or pure fascination in one's own death. Because
pure fascination in one's own death is a big one. It could be all the above.
Yeah, because there's a book came out in religious circles, because a lot of religious cults predict the end of the world, right? And we all laugh at that, like the UFO is going to come down and, you know, whatever. And then there was a book written by a group of sociologists about what happens when a cult is presented with the fact that it didn't happen. Now, but we have to be honest, is like this idea of the prediction of the end of the world isn't just a religious thing. There are people who are predicting and wanting the end of the world in a secular way. And this World War III thing is like from saying the world's going to be over in 20 years, like Extinction Rebellion type thing, or you know, World War III is about to happen. It's like there's paranoia, there's fear, but there's also desire. It's all in there.
I mean, even the person who is like scared to walk near the edge of you have giant windows, very pretty, but logically speaking, no one's gonna shove them out of a 31-story window. Even that is absurd, but a part of them is going, if I go over there, my world will end. Like there is a fear keeping me from going over there, because if I go over there, it's the destruction of the world, which of course is like, that's absurd, but there's something they still obey the thing that's like, which I get. People are scared of heights. I don't give a crap, but I don't know.
Yeah, but that connects with something you said earlier about the darkness of desire. But like that's a dark dimension of desire, is you want to, at some level, there's some fascination with destruction. Now, and the fact that you don't give into it, like, so somebody doesn't go close to my window, right? They're not giving into their desire, which, by the way, is a very good thing. Don't throw yourself off a building, right? Don't give into your desire. But the point that Lacan is making...
Can't hurt not to go near the window.
Yeah. But yeah, and the point Lacan's making is not that desire is bad, or guilt is bad. He's just saying guilt arises when you don't... Guilt arises when you cede your desire. Guilt arises when you don't do what you desire. And what you have to find is healthy ways to do what you desire. And so, for example, you might become a parachutist. You might actually, you know, you desire to throw yourself out a window, but the demand is not to. Well, maybe you will find yourself being able to satisfy that desire by doing some extreme sport. There's lots of ways to satisfy your desire.
I wonder if there's such a interesting... It sounds to me like something that people would get really stiff about, kind of jammed up about, if they were to be told, if the people on social media who are freaking out the most, who, unless I just missed the boat on international relations, which
is very, very possible.
Very possible. But unless everyone else was on the boat, most people don't know anything about what is going on, why it's going on. And by the way, we're recording this on Saturday, so who knows what the case is now.
We will be disproved if the world ends, but then that's okay, because
we really do win. Told you. So, but it just seems like that level of passion, if you were to be told that actually what you want is for that to happen, I can imagine people getting kind of upset about that and sort of feeling demeaned. But I do feel like I can relate to it personally. I remember on September 11th, 2001, I was 14, and I remember high-fiving my high school friend after he said, "We're going to go to war." I high-fived him because I was like, yeah, war's cool. I was 14, I don't know anything. And but I felt so guilty about that for so long, and so much shame about the fact that I was like, I didn't know, like I didn't realize that, like I hadn't internalized or had learned empathy for the fact that it's a destructive, horrible thing. So I don't know what the thing is, but I know that was in me at that age. I knew that thing of going, yeah, this is crazy. We're gonna get this is gonna be nuts. I don't even know if that's a desire for destruction or if it's just a desire as a kid to like see a good fist fight, but on an international level. I don't know.
Yeah. So. But that is like, if you talk to a religious cult, that believes that UFOs are going to appear in 10 years and take them to Planet Zog, right? Mm-hmm. If you directly say to that group, listen, this is a reflection of your internal desire, they're of course going to reject it. It's not. It's like it's just factual. It's going to happen, and even I don't even want it to happen because everybody else is going to be left behind. All my friends who don't believe, etc., etc. So they do not experience it as a desire. They experience it as a fact that they are merely responding to.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to see that, of course, there is a dimension of libidinal investment and desire in it. So exactly in the same way, if you say to somebody who's tweeting about World War III that this is there is a dimension of libidinal desire in this, of course they're going to say no, because it's a difference between what's called primary and secondary processes. Secondary processes are your rational processes, and primary processes are your unconscious processes. And at the secondary level, you're like, no, I'm literally just talking about the facts. Mm-hmm. But at the primary level, you're engaged because, as you say, there's like a certain lack of knowledge. And actually, if you do know a fair amount, I think, we're very far away from World War III on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Or we could be proven wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, a world war is a world war, as in a war that involves. Now, I guess people are saying that because they're concerned that the people behind Iran, the people like China and Russia and America, so it's not like impossible, but that's the same thing about the UFOs, and it's more possible than the UFOs. It's possible, but it's like my mum, who she's great, but she is nervous about using an ATM. What do you call them here? Yeah, ATMs. Yeah. We call them hole in the walls. I always forget. Yeah. ATMs. So because she might get robbed.
Hole in the walls?
Yeah, I always kept saying that in America. I would say, "Oh, the hole in the wall."
Wow, that's great.
But it's not the technical term, but that's what we all say.
That's very funny. Yeah,
the hole in the wall
here is like a little
glory hole
bar.
Or no, okay, sorry.
Like a tiny like a little hole in the wall restaurant, something like that.
All right,
that's fun.
I was thinking of a glory hole when you said that. So
that's different.
That's different again.
That can get you in trouble.
Yeah, but my mum, she doesn't like to use ATMs. She wants to go into the bank. And you go, well, that is reasonable because you could get robbed. Like, you could get robbed.
And I've seen your mom. She's a sweet-looking little old lady. So.
Yeah, so she could get robbed. But at the same time, you go, there's something about her desire and fear that's invested in that belief.
Yeah. I read this. Do you know what the oatmeal is?
What you eat for breakfast?
Yeah, it's that, and it's also this comic strip, like cartoon-esque, panel thing. I don't know a lot about it, but it's been around forever, and it's super popular and very good. But there's one on...
This is, by the way, another bingo card where Elliott explains a meme, but it's not quite a meme, but it's something in popular culture.
Something from the internet. It's basically, it goes through, it's like, let's do, it's two birds talking to one another, and the bird's like, hey, I'm going to tell you something, and it's going to be true, and we're going to talk about it, and I want you to listen to what I'm going to say. And I'm going to try to give you some information. So it goes, you know how George Washington had wooden teeth? And the bird's like, yeah. And he goes, okay, what if I told you that actually George Washington did not have a set of wooden teeth? That historians found recently that his teeth were actually made of wood, ivory, gold, elephant tusks or whatever, and obviously ivory, and pearl. And it shows this cartoon, and it's George Washington, his teeth goes from wood, and it's all this stuff. And the bird's like, how do you feel about that? And he's like, it's interesting. He's like, you probably felt like it was interesting. He goes, I'm going to tell you one more thing. He goes, what if I told you that George Washington had another set of teeth that were made, set of dentures that were made from the teeth of slaves? And he goes, you probably had a different reaction. And he gives sources throughout this. He goes, you probably had a different reaction to one of these things than you did the other thing, but both are true. He had a set of teeth that was all these different things, and he had a set of teeth that was solely made from slaves. And he goes, so let me give you some other facts. This happens, this happens, this happens, all like mundane stuff. And then he goes, here's some other facts, this, and this. And he called it he said in the comic, it's something called the backfire effect in psychology, where if you tell somebody a piece of information that is tied to their emotions, that they aren't going to be able to hear what you're saying, because the same part of the brain that reacts to information that is threatening also is the same part of the brain that reacts to physical stuff that's threatening, and so you kind of run away from it in the same way. So you get angry and your voice goes up and you go, no, that can never be the case. And you, even if there's facts and even if there's sources, you're still going to be upset about it because you haven't I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember the rest of it. But it reminded me of it when you're talking about the primary, secondary stuff.
That's all great. First of all, it's funny because I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be like a funny comic. And I'm like, oh my goodness, no, it's very serious. And this is why I want to do, and this is another bingo card, but I want to do a podcast on what's called the gaze, because the idea of the gaze is that we think we look at things objectively, but when we look at things, there's a part of ourselves within what we look at. And we have to somehow work on that, because when I look, even if you look on people on the internet, on Twitter, who talk about certain events that really frustrate them or they really important to them, you can see that's important to them, but other events that are equally crazy are not important to them.
Don't matter.
Yeah, and also sometimes that they're quick to, and we all are, we're quick to believe things that connect with our prejudices and our ideas, and how do we kind of get around that?
Yeah,
because you're absolutely right. Is that there's something of us that's within facts. It's not that there are no facts. Of course, there are facts, but there's something of ourselves that is also interpolated into facts.
And maybe it's what you look for first in a fact, you know? So like it's what you see in some way that somehow immediately you have to get past the part that's you before you see the rest of the stuff that's not you. I don't know.
This is, by the way,
now we're getting into pure...
But this is why I don't do anything on social media about my beliefs, for a few reasons. But one of them is, like, I do get annoyed at some things that I read and see in the world and that want to respond to them. But there's also, philosophy trains you to do this, is to take a step back and to think about things and to also see why you're invested in it, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, you're going to get yourself in trouble every time whenever you start to kind of like because there's something of you in what you're responding to, and you've got to figure that out.
Even in the desire for me to go get online or say kind of my like, this is what's going on, this is a death drive fantasy land that, you know, just whatever, there's something in me that believes on some level that I know best and that I think I'm right about everything, and I'm that is interlaced in my. I'm not just altruistically trying to help people or trying to inform. I don't really know, but I say it in such a way, and I have a fault of saying things in such a way that it comes off like I'm 100% sure. Probably because I still on some level need to feel like I'm 100% sure about things, which speaks to all sorts of stuff going back to, I'm sure, when I was a kid and growing up religious and all that.
Yeah, and that's the nature of language, which I think is fascinating. So language is different from communication. Communication is what animals have. So a noise means danger or mating or whatever, right? That's communication. That's what computers do. Language is when you can never say what you're saying. You always say less or more than you're saying. So it's very difficult. So I had a situation with a friend recently where they were annoyed at something and I was trying to respond to what they were saying. And it's really difficult because you go like, whatever you say, you're also saying more and less than you want to say. So there can be a dig in what you're saying. There can be kind of like you're the problem, or I'm like,
you can be a breadcrumb that you're condescendingly try to let them lead you to the conclude. You can lead the witness as it's
And even if you say nothing, you end up your nothing says more. So it's like one of the things about language is you can never say what you say. You can in a very basic way, but obviously the perfect example is, or an example that we all know is someone saying, "I want you to leave." But what they mean is, I want you to fight to stay. But they can't say, I want you to fight to stay, because if they said that, then you would just do it to obey the demand rather than the desire. So you have to say, I want you to leave, so that they can say, no, I'm not going to leave. We need to work this out. And that's the weird thing we have to work with in language, is there's the grammar of language, and then there's the grammar that underlines our desire.
We're all just big hot messes, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I think that is about, we're right there. So we timed it well.
That was fun. That was great. And I think there's lots of things we can expand on in future episodes.
Yeah, that was like a little sample. That was a charcuterie board of topics. Is that how you say it? Charcuterie? I don't know how to say that word.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Cheese on wood.
Yeah.
Charcuterie.
I think charcuterie.
And that's my takeaway, folks. Yeah. Happy New Year, Pete. What's your takeaway? What's your...
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't really have one. I enjoyed all that. And now, what my takeaway is, I realized what I was saying when I had that desire to hit people with their not primary place, but the secondary place when I can be pompous or whatever. I'm now realizing that that's a part of me wanting to be sure of myself on some fundamental level, even though I know deep down I'm not.
Yeah, very nice.
Or I guess I don't know deep down I'm not. I know cognitively that I'm not.
Is that another bingo card one where Elliott gets free therapy? Where you have some sort of insight in yourself?
Well, that's the whole hook. And I just came from therapy too, so I am tired.
Oh, you are. Today is a day. You just go home to bed.
Me.
Yeah. My takeaway is if when you feel guilty, it's a good opportunity to go like, what is my desire, and like how do I find a way to express that desire in a more healthy way. So that funny thing of guilt is not about you've done something wrong so much as guilt is somehow you've ceded to your desire, which you may have had to do, obviously. But then you have an opportunity to see your desire. What is your desire? And
what's that about?
What's that about?
Cool. Love it. Thank you, Pete.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.